All right, what's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. Got Jack with me. Third time you're with me. Jack, we're going to get into a few different things, but let's start with the game last night, right? You've been sticking with the Timberwolves this entire time. Finally paid off for you yesterday. Walk me through it. What happened last night and what made you feel like that you just wanted to stick with them? Because I don't think probably had to be hard to bet them last night, right?
Yeah, I think they're a very resilient team. I mean, they beat the defending champions in seven, and part of me has come to realize this team was built to beat the Nuggets. This team was not really built to look at a two guard system that the like two strong ball handlers that the Mavericks have. Is the Mavericks have two elite ball handlers in Luca and Kyrie, and that Nuggets team has a lot of scoring and a lot of facilitating, but their ball handling is not very good. Jamal Murray is not a true point guard. He was not a true point guard in college. And so forcing him to handle the ball is kind of what the Wolves wanted to do. But then in this series, it took me a while to realize that Dallas was almost the anti-Nuggets. And so they were able to handle the ball, and all that ball pressure was doing nothing except allowing Luca and Kyrie to kind of facilitate as well as find the open guy and create their own shot that they wanted. So I did know that the Timberwolves were going to come back. I was pretty confident last night and that they were going to come back and win one. Their coach is very, very defensive minded and very strong. They played well as a team, and they were just due. They were just due.
So sounds like you're not necessarily loving them for game five.
No, not really. I think they have a lot of work to do. I mean, Kyra or Luca did not play very well. His shooting splits were terrible. He got to the free throw line a lot, and that kind of saved his stat line. But Luca did not have a great game,
So
and Luca needs to have a great game for them to be in a good position to win.
So let's walk back to the first thing you said. So Tim Connolly, the GM of the Timberwolves, right, put together the Timberwolves to beat the Nuggets. He used to run the Nuggets, right? So
Yes, yes, correct.
where when you say they were built to beat the Nuggets, I think that's I'll say fairly obvious, right, to people that have been paying attention. And now they
Mhm.
go into this series, and after the first couple of games, it comes down to the last minute or two. They finally pulled it out yesterday. Are there any adjustments to be made? Like at this point, we've played four games. Did you see anything yesterday that they did particularly different that you can see carry over? Or is it coming down to Luca just didn't really make enough shots yesterday?
I would go with the latter of those two. I think the Wolves have put themselves with the opportunity to win, and then their lack of experience shows up. That's my thing. Anthony Edwards best player. I wouldn't say best player on the court, but definitely the best player on the Timberwolves.
Right.
He just doesn't have enough big moment experiences. And when you're 22, 23, that's going to be the case. And so he kind of goes into tunnel vision. And in those first three games, you saw that because he had terrible shooting splits in the fourth quarter,
So
and the Mavs were able to put it away.
where do you come down on Gobert? Like, what's the best way? Because I feel like the adjustments, that's where it starts for the Timberwolves. Like, how do they finish? We know how they start. We know everybody's going to get the minutes. What it seems like happens is between Reed, Towns, and Gobert, whoever's playing better at the time at the end is who they go with. They don't seem to have, and I think that's what hurts them, right? Like Dallas knows what their closing lineup is going to be. They know what their closing plays are. I mean, Towns yesterday is 9 for 13. Barkley, I don't know if you listened afterwards, but it's like you don't want to talk about anything else besides Towns. But it's not that simple. Like it's so much more complicated than that. But it feels like these games are simplified. Like when I hear my friends, and I don't know if you get this from your friends, like, dude, I'll just watch the last 2 minutes. Like it doesn't even matter who's winning, doesn't matter what the score is. It's all going to come back down to the last couple of minutes. And then what I'm hearing you say is Minnesota doesn't even know what they're doing the last 2 minutes. It kind of depends on what's been happening. And that I think hurts them at the very end. So then it comes down to can Luca and Kyrie make shots? And from a gambling perspective, I don't know how you bet on that because it would drive me crazy. I don't know where I can find an edge. I don't see an edge with the matchup. But let me fast forward something to the next series because I'm sure we'll chat about it. But my early thoughts are Boston matches up better with Dallas than they would with Minnesota. And before you give me your thoughts on it, let's give me your I don't think I've even asked you this since we've been hanging out and talking so much, like your opinion on the Celtics. Watching that Pacers Celtics series, the first takeaway is like Carlisle commits coaching malpractice in game one. They should have won game one, and then it changes everything. But then I thought Boston grew up a lot. I don't know how they don't win the chip. I don't, if Minnesota comes back, right, like they match up better with Dallas, in my opinion. So if Minnesota is the matchup, that means they got to win four straight. They'd be exhausted. So either way, I see the Celtics winning it all. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on Boston and everything I just said?
Yeah, in terms of the Pacers series, I think you hit it directly on the head. I mean, they never had a shot after game one. I never really thought they had a shot in the first place. Again, like lack of experience, lack of depth. They just didn't really have it this year. And the Pacers are going to be a strong team in the East for a very long time if they're able to keep this core together of Turner, Halliburton, and Siakam. I mean, that's a pretty strong big three right there. In terms of the Celtics, I'm still trying to kind of figure them out. They they haven't really had to do much because of injuries and because of the teams they're playing. I mean, no Brunson really hurts. Oh, well, I guess they lost to the Pacers, but I mean that kind of goes into the same way. I mean, Donovan Mitchell was hurt. They just haven't really been tested. And obviously that's a really popular opinion, but I don't think they've been tested. And I mean, obviously if the Timberwolves do somehow come back, that ball pressure is going to be a problem for the Celtics. I mean, again,
All right, so I want to talk about one other thing, and then we'll get off basketball. So talked about the ball pressure for Minnesota and Dallas. This was my hottest take. I was talking about with a couple of my friends, guys that have been coaching before. How would you guard Luka? Like guarding Kyrie and guarding Luka is completely different. And I'll start by saying I don't think guarding Kyrie is worth thinking about because I don't even know where you would start. I think you literally have to hope that he scores 45, 50 points because you can still win that game. Meaning once Luka gets rolling, he's the passer. So Kyrie won't kill you. You can double Kyrie. You can do some traditional things against him if he gets rolling. Because when he has those moments, yeah, just double him, get the ball out of his hands. But Luka, you cannot double. Like you just can't. It's best passer. So doubling him when they do that pick and roll is a nightmare, especially with Kyrie on the court, because then Kyrie catches the ball and he's rolling downhill. It's just almost impossible to stop once they get to the half court. So I say that to say that the only way I would guard him would be full court the entire time, knowing that I got to pick up the fouls. And at some point, we got to do the hack a Shaq. I got to foul Gafford. I got to foul Lively. Like, Luka, I don't even like him, and he is unguardable. Like it is turning into a situation where he becomes unguardable. I think he's so injured at this point that he's not explosive enough. And Minnesota had a chance to win a couple of those games, but him fully healthy and once he gets rolling, I would just pressure him full court. Is there something to that? Like, am I? It just feels like it's groupthink right now, and we're just going to try to do something traditional off the pick and roll that we do to every other guard. But he's not anybody that you can do that with. So you just got to get the ball out of his hands by pressing him nonstop. And I wonder if that's what the Celtics will do between Holiday and White. Just prep. All right, let me shut up. Go ahead.
yeah, I think you kind of hit it right on the head. I mean again, like Jokic and Luka are very similar players, different builds, similar players. They have very similar skill sets, and Luka's obviously a little bit of a better scorer. But you saw towards the end of the series, game six, game seven, Minnesota really figured out that they needed to pressure Jokic at all times, and Luka just hasn't really reacted. Like I feel like they've been kind of doing that, and it just hasn't been working. And so the way that I see it is obviously that pick and roll is tough. And especially when you get the guy bailing out to the paint. I mean, it's like Gobert or Towns one on Doncic. I mean, it's barbecue chicken every time. There's
And you
nothing you
need
can do.
so you have to make a decision, right? When you're playing one on one, you and I can play one on one. You play one on one against somebody that's way better than you, way worse than you. The first thing you think of is what shot am I willing to give up? Because they're gonna get a shot off. Like that's how basketball works. Unless especially against Luka. There's no point to say he can't get a shot off, right? So you have to make him take the Kobe Bryant fadeaway shot from the elbow, the Kevin Durant shot. He cannot get downhill where he has leverage and then you feel like you have to help because he's too good of a passer. So having somebody big and tall seems to be the popular way to guard him. And I would say no, it would be Derek White or Drew Holiday and let him shoot over me. I mean, he's gonna get the shot anyway. So there seems to be this thought process by Minnesota had these tall, lanky guys on them, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. he's going to get the shot off regardless. I'd rather him be exhausted. I'd rather the defender be a lot quicker than him. So therefore, every dribble is exhausting. Just keep turning, 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 and he'll still shoot, but now he'll almost ball hog it because now you won't have the double. Now everybody else on the court doesn't touch the ball as much. As soon as I see them fucking double off the hedge, I'm like, not him. Now Dallas will get rolling. So anyway, we can beat the dead horse. I feel like something's like got to like coach basketball all of a sudden. Like I coach an elementary school team, go with the boys and girls club. I didn't play pickup
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, one last thought on that. The only issue that I've seen that run into, because I mean they've definitely had situations where Anthony Edwards, who is a similar defender to Drew Holiday and Derek White, maybe not quite as mature, but just as athletic and just as quick,
Mhm.
is setting that high ball screen. They're not able to get over it quick enough. Anthony Edwards isn't able to get over it quick enough, and Luka is able to get downhill. And then when you hedge, it turns into a passing show. And so it's kind of interesting how Boston's going to handle that. I have a feeling they're going to try to rotate over and just like leave a guy open, leave like a PJ Washington open in the corner for a split second. And if PJ Washington goes 4 for 4 from the corner, you just kind of have to live with that.
So I think Porzingis being hurt and Horford being on the court, and they'll just switch it. Like, and if they're going to try to just hunt Horford every single time, at some point, like I said, you're better off Luka shooting the ball 37, 38, 39 times. Like, as soon as you do the rotation, because that's where I don't think basketball ultimately works when the other guys don't get to touch the ball. So you almost have to really treat him like, man, I hope he doesn't make every single shot. Like I cannot rotate in a way that allows him to get downhill or for somebody to get an open three. Because Dallas did a great job of creating you can argue they created a perfect team around him based on, a salary cap and what was available. PJ Washington, Gafford, and hell, they got guys off the bench that they just haven't even been using. Hardaway and Josh Green are like super athletic. Dante Exum, they just don't even get them on the court. I wonder if that's somewhat of a mistake that Boston's going to have more depth than them. And man, I think Boston's going to run them out of the gym. I think they're just going to wear them out. We'll see. All right, let's move on to one more thing and then I'll let you roll. And before we do this, Jack's been just quick little update. So Jack's been, man, graduated college. Congratulations. Going to start work. When you start work?
Mid-July.
Mid-July. So the game plan is Jack is, as I told everybody, I think about a week ago, I'm going to add a couple more people for football season. And the reason is there's just not a lot of people that, after my search, they're super trustworthy, frankly, that bet baseball in a way that's profitable. There's a lot of guys out there that want to bet big money line and then -1.5 with your best team. And I just don't think that's a helpful strategy. So after a handful of interviews and whatnot, I decided that there's a couple people that frankly only do college football and pro football. So we'll wait to add them, in a couple months. But Jack will be here forever, right? Jack's here forever. But anyway, with that being said, baseball now is more of your focus as hockey and basketball are winding down. I know you've been watching. I know you've been trying to figure out your different teams and what you like, some different trends. So we'll look out for your picks here. But if you don't mind, I wanted to spend a couple minutes diving into your strategy for baseball overall, whether it's, and I wanted to start with like your hard nose. Like, what are some bets that I think I know a couple of them, but I'd like you to elaborate. What are like what's the highest money line you're willing to bet? What are bets that are available that you just won't bet? And then what are you kind of looking for as far as value?
Yeah, so I'm not a big long odds guy. I mean anything that's super unrealistic, plus 250 or so. I usually don't take anything anywhere near that. If I like a player's matchup and I really like his like potential maybe to go deep or maybe to get +1.5
Yeah.
runs, RBIs, hits. Obviously, I might take a little bit of extra juice there, but regularly won't be over really that +225 to +250 mark. In terms of money lines, I don't really see a lot of value in betting huge favorites either. So anything over -150, pretty much regardless of the matchup, I'm just not really gonna look into that. I will take first five money lines. I will take straight up money lines if I really like the matchup. And then in terms of player props, I look a lot into the matchup with the starter, the matchup, the starter, and then the hitter, obviously, and kind of look and see if I can find any sort of advantage there. So definitely will be some player props, definitely will be some money lines and some first five money lines.
If you love the Dodgers, you love the Braves, you love the Orioles, the Yankees, some of these big favorites, or they're going against one of the worst teams in baseball, like the White Sox, will you do a -1 or a -1.5?
Yeah, potentially. If I really like the pitcher matchup, that's really on those extra lines. It turns into, can my pitcher shut them down and make it one of those 4-1, 5-1 games where you kind of close pretty comfortably. That's really how I look at that. If I'm really loving the pitching matchup on my side, then I will definitely take the extra run or two.
Since you're part of the generation where what you make 99% of your bets on your phone, you even have a laptop, like you know what I mean? Like you're always on your phone, right? So how, as far as live betting is concerned, how much do you do that for baseball? And if you do that, what would be the threshold? Do you like to see the first inning? Do you like for maybe one of the better, highly favored team to be down 1-0? What's something that you might look for if you do live betting?
Yeah, I mean, well, I as an ex-pitcher, I that's where I tend to look. Look at the pitcher, look at his pitch count, look how he's facing, look at what pitches he used. A lot of these pitchers, especially when I was younger, we would focus on getting through the lineup and saving kind of your KO pitch, trying to get through the lineup with fastball changeup and seeing how long you could go without trying to mix in that slide piece or the curveball or something like that. A lot of pros tend to do that too. And so looking at that matchup and looking at how many hard hit balls there are can tell you a lot about how well a pitcher is actually pitching. And those are little nuances that I noticed playing with other college baseball players.
So is that how I explained the Grayson situation yesterday? So what happened? I'm watching the game. Very frustrated for me, and that I thought about it after I tell you what happened. I thought about like, is there a different strategy that maybe I can employ? Because what happened was I had all the props for him, like under hits, over outs recorded, him to get the win, whatever, right? So heavy, except strikeouts, of course. So the first inning, first batter, he strikes out, and then he proceeds to give up the first and second inning. He gives up 4 runs. So almost every single bet that he had is a loser. And then I think he gave up 1 hit through the next 4 innings, three, four, five, six, gives up nothing, strikes out like 10 or whatever it was. And the Orioles, side note, as I'm ranting here, had bases. I don't know if you saw it, but they had bases loaded, no outs in the sixth inning, and he's still the pitcher of record. So at that point, I thought I was going to get lucky. We get 2 runs in there, then I'm going to win a couple bets back. Anyway, doesn't work out, and maybe if I, excuse me, because I'm not betting, life changing money on baseball games. I think if I was going to bet a lot of money on the game, do you think it would be just a better strategy to watch the first inning and see what the pitcher looks like? Because why commit myself if I don't have to right before, if I have the ability to live bet?
Yeah, that's, I mean, obviously your odds might decrease. That's definitely a possibility depending on how in this situation the Orioles offense looks. But I like trying to pick out the matchup before just as much as I do looking at it in the game.
You're
I mean,
willing.
it's important to look, the starting pitcher is probably the most important player in each game.
Sure.
Almost I would argue, I mean, Otani obviously and some of these other like studs at the top of the league might have something to say about that, but the starting pitcher to their team is probably the most important player. And so looking at, I mean, going into the analytics side a little bit here, looking at the pitches that they utilize, looking at their strike three pitches, looking at their miss pitches, looking at that kind of thing, and looking at the hitters and what they like to hit, what parts of the zone they're hot in, what parts of the zone they're cold in. Those are things that you can exploit there because so and so might have a rough go against your guy's ace because he doesn't like hitting a slurve or something along those lines.
Yeah. So there's so many different ways to do it. I think the more money that you're betting, the more information that you need to have, and I feel like that's why live betting appeals to me because the whole motto of this company and what I'd like to encourage people to do is trust their own opinion because I do think there's people out there that will have a really strong opinion about something if they're really following it. If you limit yourself to specific things, so for me, that's going to be my for NFL season, and then I'll let you roll here. I know you got to go, but for NFL season, I think the only way for NFL regular season, college football regular season, I'll have my picks before the games start. But as far as significant amount of money, I would only feel comfortable watching the first quarter, first half, and then seeing what, especially early in the season, all the new quarterbacks. There's so much. I mean, Jordan Love and the Packers last year would have you like on a string. Like you don't know when to bet him, you don't know when not to bet him. So it's all because he's young. He's got to get some starts. So there's certain teams that I think, my Ravens are a perfect example, right? Derrick Henry, like I don't. That might take them 2.5 months to figure out exactly how things are going to work out. So anyway, there's lots of different ways to do it. Jack, appreciate you doing it. Appreciate you giving your thoughts when you're giving out your picks. And yeah, as just a reminder for everybody, we're here to hope influence you to make a good decision for yourself. Right? There's so much information. My best advice, besides listening to us, is find that local reporter. I always like to say this: find the local guy who gets paid to cover the team that you're betting on for a living, instead of going with another handicapper, because we're not handicappers. That's just not what any of us are. Nobody that's part of my whoa, here we go. Nobody that's part of my company. That's not what they do for a living. What we're doing is sharing our own experiences and hoping that it helps you one way or the other. And the best advice, once you're like, you know what, I'm gonna bet a lot of money on this game. Like I can feel it. I want to for whatever reason, or you have a good inclination about something. Once you go to do the hard research, you go to find people that get paid for a living to cover it. They get to interview the coaches, interview the players, read what they're saying, get the quotes, do it all, spend the hours that you would like writing a paper. And if not, then just bet $5 to $10 and have a ton of fun and don't overthink it. Either way, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Jack, anything else I forgot or anything else you want to say before we go?
Nothing. All
Cool.
good.
So we'll see you soon. All right, cool. Appreciate everybody. Good luck. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow.